I see somebody's TikToking Dana now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Um, so as usual, I'll go through this the way I go through it every time. I will be spending the first portion of the show answering questions from my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. So if you have a question for me in the live chat, or if you were planning on being generous and throwing a super chat in there or something like that, or you have anything in the live chat that you want me to have a chance of noticing and pay attention to, please, if at all possible, hold off on that stuff until I get through the patron and member questions, and then I will spend the rest of the show hanging out with the live chat. And of course, Russell Kirok 2011 decides to throw in a a super chat. Okay, I see it. Thank you very much for making that a super chat. I appreciate it. I figured it out. I figured it out. But I appreciate you going to such lengths to make sure that I notice. No, we're good. We're good. So yeah. Okay, I think we're good. I will turn my attention now to the patron and member questions, and we'll get hi Boxy Brown and hi everybody else. I think I said that already, but let's get started with the patron and member questions. And the first one is from Debbie, who says, "Hi Steve, have you ever been to a Star Trek convention? They do not seem to come to the South. It is usually New York or New Jersey. I read about having one. I would like to attend one if it ever comes to Houston. I have never been to a Star Trek convention. I have never wanted to go. Conventions, especially like Star Trek conventions or that kind of, it's really not my scene. It's not my thing. I think I've mentioned before, it was many years ago when I was working with a local independent film company. We went to a couple of sort of regional conventions because we had a film we were taking around, and I tabled, at a couple of, I think I only actually tabled at one convention. And those, I mean, I'm not going to say those were terrible experiences, but I was there with my friends and people that I had worked with to do something that we had fun doing, and we were hoping to get people to see it, and it was a good experience, and I'm glad I had it. But in terms of like going to a con, like as a fan, I have absolutely no interest in ever doing that ever. So you're kind of talking to the wrong guy as far as conventions. But I mean, I'm sure there must be some kind of convention scene in Houston. Houston is a pretty big city. I don't know if they have like branded Star Trek conventions, but I would imagine they have some kind of like, comic convention or sci-fi convention or something at some point in that area. But I really don't know. I don't pay super close attention. But yeah, they do seem to, especially the larger conventions, they do seem to be pretty, coastally oriented. They're either on the East Coast or the West Coast. But I'm sure there's got to be something going on in Texas, especially near one of the major metropolitan areas. But like I say, you're kind of asking the wrong guy. Sorry. Faragrim. Hi from myself and my husband, Steve. This has been a rough couple. Is your husband, I forget, is your husband named Steve? Or are you saying hi, Steve, from me and my husband? It doesn't matter either way. This has been a rough couple of weeks. My grandfather passed away, and boy, it hurts. What are some lessons about grief you think we can learn from Star Trek and episodes dealing with that? I mean, my condolences, first of all. I still feel the loss of my grandfather, and he died over 20 years ago. So, I mean, it's, I know how that feels, and I'm really sorry to hear that. As far as lessons about grief from Star, I mean, I can't really think of a Star Trek episode that specifically deals with grief or with the loss of a loved one or with death or anything like that. I mean, there are certain times when it grapples with relevant themes. I mean, even though it's a really bad movie, I think the character arc they try to give Captain Picard in Star Trek Generations might be worth considering. The fact that he loses his family, his brother and his nephew, and sort of ends the movie having come to terms with that and having reconciled the role of life and death and the passage of time. And it's not great. It's not very good drama, but the idea is sound. And it's the kind of thing that Star Trek doesn't do a whole lot, because usually when Star Trek deals with death, it's either a plot device or it's a character that's going to come back eventually. And that's not necessarily the message that's going to be helpful to you when dealing with a real life death. I mean, I guess the closest would maybe be the death of Tasha Yar in TNG in season one, which is one of the better episodes of season one. And I've in the past talked about it as a little bit of a creative turning point for the show. It's from that point that the show starts to get a little better near the end of season one. It's not, it's, you know, definitely on the upswing from just the dreck that it was for most of season one. And Tasha's death, you know, at that point is handled fairly well. There is a sense of saying goodbye. There is a sense of finality to it. And you get to see the characters dealing with it, and you get to see, you know, Tasha leaving a message behind for her friends. And it's about as close to a normal human funeral as we ever get in Star Trek. I mean, we could say, you know, Captain Kirk's eulogy for Spock in Star Trek 2, which is beautiful. And if you look at Star Trek 2 just in its own context and you don't consider the other movies, Spock's death in Star Trek 2 is really beautifully done too. But then they bring him right back in the next movie. So on a larger canvas, it's not, again, you know, it's a character that dies but then is resurrected. And Tasha kind of gets resurrected eventually too. But you know, so there are some examples in Star Trek. If you narrow your focus just to that particular, if you do it, I mean, I recommend this all the time. Watch the thing you're watching and focus on it, and don't worry about the next episode, or don't worry about the sequel to it that changes this or whatever. Just focus on what you're watching. And if you're able to do that and sort of divorce yourself from, you know, the rest of the episodes or the movies that follow it or whatever, and just be in the moment that the show or the movie is showing you, Star Trek 2 is a good one. And Skin of Evil, the episode where they kill off Tasha Yar in TNG, is a good one in terms of dealing with grief and dealing with death as well. William Tucker, what's your arena entrance music? Well, we could never actually afford it because it's a Led Zeppelin song, and there's no way that they were going to. I mean, I'm sure they would license a song for a wrestler to use for an entrance fee, but I'm sure it would be so incredibly expensive that nobody would ever do it, except probably Tony Khan, because he doesn't fucking care. um, but it's the Led Zeppelin version of When the Levee Breaks. That would be my entrance theme if I was a wrestler. Just if you know that song, just imagine it's a little bit like Diesel's original theme in WWF, with like the thumping sort of the big loud heavy drum, you know, to mimic like heavy footsteps, is reminiscent of that, but it can't match the Zeppelin version of When the Levee Breaks. I would that's the first time I heard that song when I was a teenager. I was like, oh man, if I was a wrestler, that would be my entrance theme. Neil Klein, a gem of an artist named Mike Grell, used to do quite a lot of penciling and even inking for Batman Family in the 70s before he worked on Legion of Superheroes, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and Warlord. I'm wondering if you had a chance to appreciate his work. Also, thank you for your last video on conservatives. I think you're bold. Well, I make videos. I don't know how bold that is, but thank you. I appreciate it. I feel like I know the name Mike Grell, but I can't honestly say that I'm super familiar with his work. So you have given me something to go back and look into, especially since there's a Batman connection, because I'm always looking for stuff that might be sort of off the beaten path things that I can talk about in my Best Batman Ever video series. So I'll now that you've mentioned it, I'll make an effort to go look up some Mike Grell comics. But no, I can't say that I'm super familiar with his work, unfortunately, but thank you for mentioning him. Amara of Kintsugisai. This is a question for Stuffy. Bit presumptuous, but it just so happens Stuffy is monitoring the stream, so I believe Stuffy will be willing to answer your question. Stuffy, We recently came out at work with new preferred names. When a coworker dead names us in a meeting, we correct it politely and forgive it. What do we do when the coworker actually refuses to use the new name and questions our mental health? We feel our job is secure, we have tenure, but we want to move forward beyond safe into something like happiness. You seem like you'd know how to keep your expression and your voice calm. For us, we've considered puppets. Well, Stuffy, are you there?
Yes, I'm paying attention. I saw the question.
Okay, well, do you have any advice?
Well, let me see. First of all, thank you for having such faith in me that I would have a good answer to this. Although, unfortunately, maybe fortunately for myself, I don't have a lot of experience. No one's ever dead named me before. Stuffy is pretty straightforward. But I would say try to communicate with this stubborn coworker how disrespectful you feel it is to be dead named, to be referred to by a name that is not the name you have chosen, that is not the name you prefer. And if that doesn't work, if a simple appeal to humanity does not work, and this person still insists on disrespecting you and not using your proper name, maybe call them by a name other than their name and ask them how that feels. And if they don't like it, if they object to it, if it makes them upset that you insist on calling them by a name that isn't their name, maybe say, okay, I understand why that would upset you. I don't think that you have a mental health issue because you object to someone calling you the wrong name. In fact, I think it's quite reasonable to be upset at someone disrespecting you by not calling you by your name. And maybe you could start showing me the same basic respect. But of course, I have no idea if that would work at all, because it's quite possible that your coworker who insists on dead naming you is just a jerk. And if that is the case, my condolences on that. I hope that's good enough. That's all I've got.
Well, I hope it's good enough too, Stuffy. Thank you for the answer, Stuffy. Stuffy, he does occasionally monitor the live stream. I'm not sure why. I think maybe he's prepared to jump in if I say something really inflammatory, and he'll just take over and try to salvage it. But anyway, hope that helps, Amara. Sean O'Sullivan, hey Steve, having a problem since I joined the channel. I can't comment or super chat. Any ideas? If you could get in touch with me privately, either email me or maybe send me I guess just email me and give me the link to your YouTube profile, and I'll check and see if you've been banned or something. I don't remember blocking you for any reason, but that's the only thing I have no idea why it would have anything to do with you becoming a channel member. But that's the only thing I can think of. Just message me or get in contact with me privately and send me a link to your YouTube profile, your YouTube channel page, whatever, and I'll see if you have been hidden somehow, and I'll see if I can fix that. But that's the best I can do. And sorry about that. That's really annoying. Tasby12, hey Steve, have you had a chance to watch Death by Lightning yet? And if so, what do you think? Because remember, a few days after Garfield was shot was when William Money and the Schofield Kid killed them two cowboys. What cut up that whore in Big Whiskey? Oh, I love that you made the Unforgiven connection. I really want to watch Death by Lightning, but I have not had a chance yet. But that's not for lack of interest. I do really want to watch it, but I just haven't had time to watch it yet. So I will make an effort to watch it soon. Jason watched it and liked it a lot. And I've read other reviews of it that suggest that it's something that I would enjoy. But I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So thank you for the reminder and the little nudge to get me to watch it. And for the reminder also that that one of my favorite films ever, Unforgiven, takes place right after that, the assassination that show depicts. Catherine Wood, why does not this regime realize that to have a healthy economy, a nation needs a prosperous middle and working class? Workers spend money. The wealthy class hoards money. Thank you. Well, it's not just this regime, it's conservatives in general. It's in this country, Republicans in general. You know, that has always been the mindset. Well, if you give the money to rich people know best how to spend it and how to disperse it, and that's best for the economy. And they view, giving paying fair wages to working class people and middle class people, and giving generous welfare benefits to the less fortunate, to people in poverty. They view that as some kind of as a waste of money, because I guess they think they forget their basic economics when it comes to giving money to poor people and working class people. Because as you rightly point out, when a poor person gets money, what do they do with it? They spend it on stuff that they need. They spend the money. And people spending money on stuff is what makes the economy go. So you are absolutely right. Having a middle class and a working class, and I mean, it would be ideal if there were no people in poverty, but as long as we're in a situation where people are living in poverty, by giving support to the people who are living in poverty so that they can at least afford to buy the essentials that they need to survive, that is the best situation for the economy from top to bottom, because that generates economic activity, which is the whole thing. And again, I am by no means an economist, but that's a pretty basic principle of a capitalist economy, which for better or worse is what we're fucking stuck with for the time being. Um, so yeah, but that it's not just the current regime; it's Republicans in general, and it's that I don't know if they honestly don't realize it, or if they deep down in their heart of hearts know that that's how it really works, and they don't care because they just want the fucking money for themselves, because they're greedy. That's why they hoard wealth. That's why they hoard so much more wealth than they would ever possibly need, because they're fucking greedy. And I guess they hope that eventually they'll have so much money that it'll fill in whatever hole in the middle of them there is. I don't know, but no, you are absolutely right. And it would be nice if conservatives would realize that at some point, but then I guess they wouldn't be conservatives anymore if that happened, would they? John Burns, what does Star Trek teach us about fascism? Well, I think you were kind of confused, as you seemed to mean Nazism. It was successful, that it was more successful than Italian fascism, as their military couldn't defend much burn. There were other episodes where Kirk met an old friend from Starfleet on another planet who went through some terrible things. But in Patterns of Force, his old friend, in spite of being a historian, didn't focus on the important history he studied. He was a most naive old friend. Agreed? Yes, that's the point of the episode. Yes, that's the point of the episode. And I believe I also made that observation, or one very much like it, in the video that you're referring to. And that's really all I have to say. But yes, I meant Nazism, which in a general sort of way is a flavor of fascism. I feel like you're being a tad pedantic with that distinction. I mean, yes, technically fascism, if you want to get like right down to the, shave it as thinly as possible, then yes, Mussolini was a fascist and Hitler was a Nazi. But nowadays, most people would consider Nazism to be a form of fascism. And, I feel like people who watch the video will get where I'm coming from. And also, they'll realize they're watching a YouTube video about Star Trek and not an academic lecture. So if I don't use terms with academic precision, most people would give me a pass on that. Brian, why does Star Trek hate safety? Not only is there a severe lack of safety systems and redundancy on ships and stations, but a sizable portion of episode plots seem to be specifically around crew being in danger due to system failures, except the transporters, which have an unparalleled safety record mentioned in TNG Season 6, Episode 2, Realm of Fear. An unparalleled safety record, except all of the times when they have dangerously fucked up just up to that point in that show. Because safety's not dramatic. Safety's boring. You really want to watch a space adventure show where the seats have seatbelts and the captain's like, okay, everybody, buckle up. Now let's be safe. That's not dramatic. Exciting, dangerous things are supposed to happen. That's drama, man. But yes, of course, if we think about it, if we imagine it to be like a real life thing, then yeah, somebody's really dropping the ball with the lack of safety systems on starships. Yes, absolutely. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it. But if it was something, if it was other than what we see, then it wouldn't be nearly as exciting because you need to put your heroes in peril. And what better way to put them in peril than to establish that they live and work on a flying death trap out in the middle of outer space? Brian Baker, Steve, I had 7 uncles who did at least 2 tours of Vietnam back during the war. I know that war is hard and unfair and morally unsupportable for any human being. I also know it happens in the course of events. Do you think Trump had an MRI of his abdomen because he needed a gut check before supporting Hegseth's war crimes of killing non-combatants in the Caribbean? Keep up the excellent work. You know, this is actually the subject of my video for Monday. I mean, no, I don't think he he didn't need a gut check. Trump doesn't care. Trump supported Trump. No, Trump thinks it's cool that they're killing people because it makes him feel like a tough guy. Trump doesn't have any guts. He didn't need an MRI for a gut check. He never felt because he doesn't have any fucking guts. Trump doesn't have any guts. He's a coward and a poser. And he just thinks it makes him feel like a big man that he can order the military to blow up people in boats. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah. I mean, I guess you on one hand you could say he needs a gut check because he doesn't have any. So there's that. But yeah, he's a piece of shit. He just does it because it makes him feel tough. That reflection that you have in your question, where you talk about war being hard and unfair and morally unsupportable, but an unfortunate thing that happens sometimes. Trump doesn't even have that depth of awareness about it. He's not thoughtful about it at all. He just thinks it's cool that he can blow people up. Wolfram and Hart. Steve, congrats on 1/3 subs. Hey, that's right. Boy, what a big shot I am. In a John Anderson voice, perhaps, in Star Trek TNG The Survivor, should Picard have investigated if the Husnak were truly eradicated? Maybe they had IVF or other reproductive technologies. Perhaps they could be de-extincted like the dodo or thylacine. Should not Picard have offered to go and assess the homeworld? Geopolitically and culturally, should the Benevolent Federation get there first before others like the Ferengi take advantage?
I don't see how that's Captain Picard's job, bud.
No, I don't. It's not Picard's job. Is he supposed to go chasing after every alien species that some omnipotent being wipes out of existence? He didn't sign up for that. That's not this. None of that. None of this is Picard's problem. I think that more than anything else, I think that's why Picard kind of tries to wipe his hands of the whole thing and he says, you know what? We're just gonna leave you alone, right? We're just gonna leave you. This is not my problem. I don't know what the fuck I'm even supposed to do about this. Just, you know what? Stay on this planet with your pretend wife and have a nice life, buddy. See ya. Like, I feel like, yeah, no. I don't think it was Picard's responsibility. I really don't. And I think he probably did, I mean, like I said, I mentioned this in a video. I mean, unless you're going to say like Kevin is basically immortal and he's all powerful. So like, what are you going to do? Arrest him and put him in prison for like the rest of eternity? Yeah. But I do like the idea of Picard saying, oh shit, maybe we should go to the homeworld and see what we can do. Don Quixote, I don't normally make resolutions, but this coming year I need to change that. I've made many excuses not to get a colonoscopy, and as I'll be 60 next year, this is one thing I have to do. My father only lived a couple months past his 60th, and now I'm feeling my own mortality staring at me. Of course, I could live for many more years, but that leads me to my other resolution, to finally make a will. Have you made a will? Sorry, Steve, but you won't be mentioned in mine. Family comes first. LOL. Well, you know what? I have not made a will. I should, but I haven't. But I will at some point. I will. I will at some point, but I haven't yet. No, I'm not really sure who I'll leave everything to. I have no children. maybe I'll say just sell everything and use the money yeah, just donate the money to the library or something. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But no, I don't have a will. But it's a good reminder to all of us that that's something we need to be thinking about. Especially, I mean, I'm not as old as you, but I am starting. I have just begun to dip my toe in the earliest stages of middle age, so I do need to start thinking about that. And here's the other one from Don Quixote, who is of course a patron and a member, and is taking advantage of the privilege of patron/members to submit 2 questions if they so wish. Don Quixote says, "Since I live alone, I don't do much decorating for Christmas. I do put up a tree, an artificial one. How much decorating do you do? And if you have a tree, is it real or not?" I do very, very little decorating. I do have a tree. It is not a real tree. It's actually it's a little tabletop ceramic tree that belonged to my grandmother that was one of the standard Christmas decorations that she would always put out come Christmas time. And it was my favorite thing. I loved it. It's got little Christmas lights stuck in it, and you plug it in and flip the switch and it lights up. And it's just a very simple little thing, but I loved it, and I put that out on my dining room table every year. In fact, I haven't put it out yet. I should put it out. Maybe I'll put it out this weekend. But yeah, that's really all I do. Like I mean, I'm not super Christmassy as a grown up, but I do put out my granny's little Christmas tree every year. General Contact Unit problem child. Is it actually bad the U.S. government has multiple branches? Americans lord their system where everything has to be passed through both chambers and the president, but it seems like all that does is prevent anything from getting done. The UK technically has a bicameral system too, but for various political reasons, the House of Lords rarely outright blocks legislation, and the monarch never does. Effectively, whichever party wins parliament can do whatever it wants. That seems more functional to me. Well, I mean, yeah, there are certain things that we could change about our system without rewriting the Constitution that would make our national legislature more functional as well. Um, I mean, like the big one in the United States Senate is the filibuster, and I feel like I think a lot of people feel like the filibuster should either be drastically reformed or just done away with altogether. But then there are people on the other side that say, well, no, it's good to have it because it allows the minority to block, to like maybe it's a good thing sometimes that the majority can't just do whatever it wants. There are arguments on both sides, but the problem is, and Dana and I talked about this on our watch along stream on Wednesday. The problem isn't so much the way the system is laid out on paper. The problem is the people. The idea is, well, if a piece of legislation that is being moved through both houses of Congress and then to the desk of the president, if it's really beneficial to the people, if it's really good and something that should be enacted into law, then it would get bipartisan support. Republicans and Democrats would support it if it was a truly good idea and if it was truly necessary or beneficial. But as we see from the way our politics is now, that's an incredibly naive idea, because Republicans will oppose certain things just on principle and Democrats will oppose certain things just on principle. And there are very, very few proposals that can count on legitimate bipartisan support just because of the nature of our politics. But that's a cultural thing. That's a political thing. That's not because there's anything necessarily wrong with the way our legislature is laid out. And again, and I'm not saying the way it's laid out is perfect or that it's necessarily the best system in the world, because your country, lots of countries have parliamentary systems that function differently than ours, and some of them seem to be doing just fine. So it's not like our system is inherently superior or anything, but I think most of the problems with our system, and especially the gridlock and the problem you're describing, where it can be really difficult to get even very necessary things through, that's mostly a function of the people involved, not the system as it's laid out. What is the light of what is the light of eyes but the cancer that causes one to witness the laceration of being ere one fire? That sounds like some shit that fucking coal miner guy would have said in Twin Peaks: The Return. The woodsman. What is the light of the eyes but the cancer that causes one to witness the laceration of being air one fire? And then he would repeat it like over and over again while crushing people's skulls. Anyway, what was your system for planning out the retro reviews, meaning the Star Trek retro reviews? Do you use Excel? I would make a list of all the episodes in numbered order of release, then apply multiple tags to each: themes, main characters, locations, etc., and other notes. Then I would shuffle them around into batches for a multiple year schedule. It would be perfect. Then I would go back to playing video games, watching porn, or otherwise wasting time, and never open the file again. I assume that was your approach. Best wishes. If I attempted to use Excel or a similar program for any reason, I would probably be crying in frustration within 3 minutes. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. It might as well be like a spreadsheet program. It might as well be an alien language to me. I have no fucking clue, especially when you get into the sort of more advanced functions of it. No, the way I did the way I've done the retro review schedule is it's just a document, just like it's a Google Doc, but like a Word doc, and I just list the episodes in the batches, and like just as a list, and then I put dates next to them so I know when I want to do which episode, and it's basically that. It's just a very basic list, and um, there's no tags. There's no the process of deciding what the batches are and which episodes go in which group. Like that's very intuitive and very arbitrary, and just whatever I think works. So yeah, it's an orderly system in the sense that I lay it out pretty far ahead of time, so I know, for the next couple of years, like what the order of the reviews is going to be. Like it's orderly in that sense, but the actual laying out of it and deciding what happens when and which episodes, like that's very arbitrary. It's not nearly as technical and well ordered as you are suggesting. No. So no, that's not how I do it. Ken, I'm pretty sure you've dealt with this before, but transporters, height of convenience or murder machine? Yes. Actually, I think that was the subject of my second ever Trek Actually video, and the conclusion I came to was they're not. It's not a murder machine because the show tells you it's not a murder machine, and any scientific theory, any inference or conclusion you could draw based on on-screen evidence is moot compared to what the show is telling you, because it's a fictional show. And if the show tells you the transporter is safe and it's not killing you every time you use it, that, the you that emerges at the other side is literally the same you that went in and is not like an exact copy. Like if Star Trek is telling you that that's how it works, then that's how it works. And it doesn't matter whether that makes any scientific sense in the real world or not. So canonically, no, it is not a murder machine. Now, if we're talking about in terms of real life physics, I don't know how it's not a murder machine. Like, if we apply something like actual scientific principles, again, as I understand them in my very, very limited layman's way, but if we apply something like legitimate scientific principles to the transporter, I don't see how it's not a murder machine. But within the reality of the show, it's not a murder machine because the show says it's not a murder machine. So it's as simple as that. None your business. I think he's talking to you all because I know exactly who this is. But for everybody else, none your business. I remember watching Space Seed and how great Khan could be at expressing his elitism. I also remember how the conspiracies around Hitler escaping from Berlin had to play into the script of Spock mentioning 80 to 90 young supermen getting away. They knew the horrors of what had happened and used this as a warning to those in the future like us. Thanks for reading. This is a really interesting insight into that story, actually, because you're right. There were conspiracy theories, rumors, legends of Nazis, senior Nazis, even Hitler himself. And in fact, I mean, it's not just rumors and legend. There were certain, high ranking Nazis that did escape and disappear for a while. And in some cases, it was a very long time before they were located. So there was an element of truth to this, but there were a lot of conspiracy theories like, well, Hitler's not really dead. He escaped. He's living somewhere else. He's in Argentina, or he's here, or he's there. And yes, I don't usually think about this, but there is a parallel there to Khan and his group. You know, it's not precise because, I think even though their fate was kind of forgotten, it seems like their fate was not a secret. Like people at the time knew that they had left in this sleeper ship. So it wasn't like, Hitler escaped from the bunker and faked his death. And it's not the exact situation. But yes, there is definitely. And if you consider that, Space Seed Star Trek was made just a little tiny bit over 20 years after the end of World War II, yeah, that probably was a thought in people's heads. So that's a really interesting insight into that episode. Jan, enjoying my first eggnog of the season, an indulgent treat. Managed to hold out till after Thanksgiving before indulging. Recently, I heard speculation that Senator Van Hollen could soon become minority leader. What I know of him, I think I like. As his constituent, I'd love to hear your thoughts. At least he would be an improvement, in my opinion. Oh my God, he'd be over Schumer? He'd be a massive improvement. I like Senator Van Hollen. Yeah, he's one of my senators from Maryland. I like him a lot. Yeah. I've liked him the whole time he's been in there, but he really impressed me with the way he was all over the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story situation. He really impressed me with that. So no, I like Senator Van Hollen a lot. And yes, if he, joins Democratic leadership in the Senate, I think that would be great. And yeah, it would be a big improvement over what we currently have. Agent Meister, be anxious of his arrival, obsequious during his stay, and relieved at his departure. Good advice for everybody in every situation. Peldor Joy, Steve, I listened to a review of the Back to the Future trilogy recently. One of the reviewers wasn't crazy about the arc Marty goes through in parts 2 and 3, how he loses control whenever someone calls him chicken, and that there was no need for it. I never had a problem with this aspect of these movies. I mean, great Scott, man. It added an obstacle our heroes needed to overcome, which always makes a story interesting. What do you make of it? And which of the Back to the Future sequels do you like more? I get where they're coming from with the chicken thing. My problem with it was that it's very cartoonish. I don't have a problem with the concept of it, with the idea that Marty has a temper and, that Marty has like some character flaw that holds him back or gets him in trouble that he needs to overcome to do what he needs to do. Like that is like basic writing and characterization. But the way it's portrayed in those movies, especially because he's not like that in Back to the Future. He's only like that in 2 and 3, where someone calls him chicken and it's like the slowly I turned routine. It's like all of a sudden he has this trigger that just turns him into a fucking asshole like in a split second. And it's kind of cartoony. So that's my problem. I don't know. I'm not sure what the review, I'm not familiar with the review that you watched, but that's my objection. No, I don't think it ruins the movies, but it does kind of make Marty's character in the second 2 movies just a little less compelling, a little shallower, a little cornier, because it's like, oh, call him chicken, and it's like his brain turns off, you know? And I like part 3 is my favorite of the sequels. Yeah, I mean, the first one obviously is the best, but of 2 and 3, no, part 3 is the best. Not only do I like the Western genre, better than the future stuff in part 2, I think it's just a better film. It's better plotted. The character stuff makes more sense. Doc has a much more interesting character arc. I think it concludes the whole story of the trilogy in a satisfying way. Yeah, I actually like Back to the Future Part 3 quite a bit. I don't think it's on the level of the original, but I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So Part 3 is my favorite of the sequels. Carlisle the Cinephile, greetings, Steve. Given these times in which we live, the fact that they don't seem all that fictional anymore, when do you think someone being a fan of fictional authoritarian regimes like the Galactic Empire or the Fire Nation become red flags? Some people I know are making the Empire was right type claims, and it's concerning. Well, yeah, there's your red flag right there. And honestly, that should have been a red flag at any point. Not just, I mean, especially now, given the state of the world. But even back in like 1977, 1980, 1983, when the original Star Wars movies were coming out, if people were saying, you know, the Empire was right, the Empire did nothing wrong, Darth Vader makes some good points, like that, oh boy, you are really telling on yourself there. Like, no, the Empire are the bad guys. It's not ambiguous. It's not shades of gray. It's about as black and white as it could possibly be. You know, they're space Nazis. They're imperialists. They're autocrats. They're war criminals. They're invaders. They're, you know, like they blow up planets with their big spaceship. Like, what is it that you're not getting? What was the Empire right about when it blew up an entire fucking planet? Is that when it was right? You know, like, so yeah, it is concerning and it should be a red flag. And I think it is a red flag. Just like for Star Trek fans, when people talk about Gul Dukat as being something other than a good character. You know, the goal, you know, actually Gul Dukat was a good leader. And, you know, I mean, he makes a lot of sense when he talks about how he tried to minimize the number of deaths during the occupation of Bajor. Like, I think he's got a good point. He really wasn't treated fairly. Like, no, dude. No, dude. You're really off on this one. Like, I'll sing Gul Dukat's praises as a character, as a villain all day long. I think he's brilliant. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. But he's wrong, and he's a narcissist, and he's an evil fuck, and you should not be on his side. Period. And if you are on his side, yes, I am going to look at you sideways and probably keep my distance. Yes, it is very concerning, that sort of thing. Glenn H has come to accept the 500 character limit. Wait, this post is too long? Fuck. Brevity, my friend. Brevity. Hi, Steve. I have a challenge for you. Name a bad movie that's not ironically good that you think could have been saved somewhere in the process. Better direction, tweaked script, better casting. Then name a movie that is good but shouldn't have been, i.e., concept was weak or script was poor, but the filmmaker found a way to pull it off. And you're not allowed to pick Jaws because that's the easy one. I look forward to your response. Have a great show. I don't think Jaws fits that. I think Jaws is a good movie. Not a good movie that should have been a bad. I think Jaws is great from top to bottom. Like, I think the script of Jaws is good. I really, do people say that about Jaws? Do they think that Jaws like should have been a shitty movie, but it was rescued by like Spielberg? I mean, it's one of Spielberg's best movies. He's brilliant. His direction of Jaws is brilliant, but like the whole movie's good. Jaws is just a good movie. Like, it's not a good movie that should have been a bad movie. Jaws is fucking great. What is a bad movie that could have been saved somewhere in the process? I'm gonna have a theme with this, and my theme is Zack Snyder. So the bad one that could have been saved is Man of Steel. If it had been made by someone other than Zack Snyder, and if it had been written by someone other than David fucking Goyer. There are certain basic concepts in Man of Steel that I think are good. Even some of the really unpopular ones, like the idea of Pa Kent, you know, being overprotective of Clark and discouraging him from using his powers, even to the point of letting people die. That's a really provocative idea for Superman. And if it had been handled with a little more thoughtfulness and intelligence, I think that could have gone somewhere interesting and entertaining and not felt like it was made by people who just don't understand and hate the character. You know what I'm saying? So Man of Steel would be the one that I would suggest could have the basic idea of it could have resulted in a much better movie if different people were involved. And if they had known what movie they were writing and they had actually accomplished the things that they were trying to accomplish and apparently thought they accomplished but didn't. And I could go on and on and on about that. The one that is good but shouldn't have been is Watchmen. Um, Watchmen, and specifically I'm talking about the original theatrical cut, not the extended. The extended version to me is almost unwatchable. The director's cut, whatever they call it, but the theatrical cut of Watchmen is excellent. It is, I think, Zack Snyder's best film by far. And there have been very, very few examples in the last 20 something years of movies of a movie that is greater than the sum of its parts. Because if you look at Watchmen, it is such a mess. It is so all over the place. It is so over the top in certain ways. And yet somehow, for me, not everybody thinks this, but for me, like it ultimately hangs together. And at the end of the day, it's a really good movie. Um, and I obviously Zack Snyder directed it. He deserves some credit for it, but also a lot of the stuff that doesn't work about it is clearly Zack Snyder's fault because he has to Snyder it up, you know. And there are elements of the Watchmen movie that really don't work or that don't work as well as other parts. And it's because he had to fucking get his fingerprints on it and Snyder it up. And again, his understanding of the material is contrary to what the material is actually trying to say. And I'm not even talking about the comic book. I'm talking about just the script for his movie. I feel like there are parts of the script for his movie that Zack Snyder doesn't get. But even despite all that, it somehow comes out good for me. So that would be my example. So those are my two examples, and they are both united by the fact that they are Zack Snyder films. The Grumpy Monkey. How now, Steve? You've been less than effusive in your praise for the 1989 Batman movie, as well as the two Schumacher outings. But what are your opinions on Batman Returns? Do you like it? Or out of the four Burton Schumacher movies, do you think it's the best of a bad lot? I like it, but out of the four, it's my least favorite. Also, I absolutely loved your AI Jesus skit. I'm normally a cranky git, but that video in general and the ending in particular had me guffawing. Take a bow. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you liked it. I was pleased with how that one came out as well. I like Batman Returns more and more every time I watch it. And I'm probably going to watch it at some point in the next few weeks because it is one of the movies I watch every Christmas. I really, really like Batman Returns. I think not only is it the best of a bad lot, I genuinely like it. I think it's a good movie. I do think it is the best of that era of the Batman movie franchise, of the Burton Schumacher series. I think it's easily the best. Um, but not only that, I like it on its own merit. And when Jason and I talked about it um, on late seating, I feel like he doesn't see it the same way I do. But I have thought for many many years, I have felt like Batman Returns is best appreciated as a kind of weird action comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously. I feel like the tone of it, the approach of it, the sense of humor it has, the absurdity that kind of is threaded through it. I don't think it wants you to take it seriously. I think a lot of people misread it when it came out and judged it as something that it's not. No, I like it a lot. And I it's one of those movies that every time I like it, I appreciate it more and more. So yeah, I'm a fan of Batman Returns. Ed Best, hey Steve, your YouTube channel is growing all the time. I'm super impressed with you. My real question is, have you ever hired a marketing coach or have you been self-taught? Cheers. I suppose I've been self-taught. I feel like if I had hired a marketing coach or if I had tried to make my YouTube channel into this or that, in reference to what was popular or what had worked for other people, I don't think I would even have been as successful as I have been. Um, the channel has grown a lot in the last few years. Before that, it grew kind of at a steady but slow rate. I think whatever success I have had on YouTube is due to the fact that I have just trusted my instincts, and I have done things that I think are interesting, or that I think I have something to say that is worth sharing, and then I've hoped that people who feel the same way, or would get something out of it, would find it. And over the years, that has happened, and I'm very grateful for that. But no, I feel like if I looked at it in terms of marketing, if I looked at it in terms of chasing views, um, I don't think it would work. I really don't. I feel like the fact that it genuinely comes from my interests and my imagination and my head is what makes the channel work to the extent that it does. So no, no marketing coach, no professional help at all. Just me trying to do my thing the best I can. But I'm glad you enjoy it, or at least I'm glad you enjoy some of it. I'm glad you enjoyed enough to be a supporter. I'll put it that way. I really appreciate that. Um, Simon Moody, I know I shouldn't take pleasure from other people being in pain, but I accept this as a failing I have. Yesterday, I listened to Late Seating just the end of the episode before Battlefield Earth, and the abject agony both of you had left me unable to move and in tears of laughter. So the episode before is when we find out that Battlefield Earth is going to be the next movie. Yeah, okay. So thank you, Steve and Jason. In a horrible timeline, you're still great. Well, I appreciate that. I'm sure Jason appreciates that. Um, yeah. I mean, here's the great thing about those moments on Late Seating, I think for both of us, is obviously a lot of it is performative. We're not that upset about having to watch a bad movie. Like, it's a bad movie. It's not even close to the worst thing that's going to happen to you. It's not that big of a deal, right? But there is still a kernel of, oh God, we have to watch that you can kind of latch onto and blow up. So there's truthfulness to it, but it's still a big and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad that bit I'm glad that bit amuses you. I really appreciate that. Jim P. Hi, Steve. Hope you had a wonderful holiday. I have a question about your live streams. It looks like you use OBS. Is there a reason you chose that over other software such as Streamlabs? Just wondering if you weighed the pros and cons of each thing. Actually, I mean, I have OBS and I've used it for things here and there in the past, but most of the time I'm actually using XSplit. That's what I'm using right now. That's what this is on, XSplit. No, I didn't really weigh the pros and cons of anything. I just did what I what seemed to look good at the time. And I guess the main reason why I'm not using something like Streamlabs or one of the online streamers is just that when I started doing these, they weren't really a thing. At least they weren't a thing that I knew of. Maybe they existed, but I wasn't aware of them. So I'm just kind of doing it the way I've always done it. I've thought about switching over. I've been a guest on enough other people's streams that do use something like Streamlabs that it seems like a pretty good deal. It seems like a good setup. And I'm sure at some point I will do that. Like, I'll start doing these on Streamlabs or some other platform like that. Just, it's probably inevitable. And when I start doing it that way, I'll probably think, Christ, why didn't I do this all along? This is so much better. But yeah, there was no careful vetting process. There was, oh, this looks good, I'll do this. And here we are. And one of the downsides is when I do finally switch over to Streamlabs or some other similar platform, we won't get the fun of me having to reboot my live chat viewer every fucking show. And I think when that's gone, we'll miss that. Stephen G. Clenard. Hey, Steve, on the previous Ask Away, you took a crack at Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. I've come to appreciate the film, but only after reading and watching videos explaining what the fuck he was trying to achieve. Can a movie that requires so much meta be considered great or even good? Or must a film be judged entirely on its own without requiring a minor in film studies? I think both are valid. For me, like, The technical achievement of Barry Lyndon is mind-blowing. The fact that it was shot with natural light, the fact that they had to invent new lenses in order to shoot it like that, the sort of mad genius of Kubrick to even and the audacity to even attempt something like that. The technical achievement of it is marvelous. And it does have certain artistic qualities as well that are great. But god damn it, is it hard to sit through. Like it's not a very compelling drama for me. But I think it's valid to judge it on both levels. And I can say technically and in certain ways artistically, it's a towering achievement. It's fantastic. But in terms of character and story and the things that usually draw us into a film, I mean, it's definitely not my favorite Kubrick film. You know, it's slow and remote in terms of character and emotion, even for Kubrick. And that was kind of Kubrick's stylistic signifier, you know, a kind of cold analytical removal from his characters. Um, but I think it's valid to look at it both ways. If you do have the knowledge and the awareness that allows you to appreciate the things about it that might be invisible to just a casual viewer, I think it's perfectly valid to appreciate it on that level. And at the same time, if you're just a casual viewer and you're putting it on because you want to watch a movie and you watch it and you think, "Oh shit, this is long and boring," and you're not aware of the technical stuff, or you just don't care, I think that's valid too. You're judging a different experience. So I think both are okay. I think both are okay. And I think that's the key to not being a snob is recognizing that you can appreciate it on one level and someone else can appreciate it on a different level and maybe not take into account or not be aware of the things that you're thinking of when you appreciate it, and both of them can be acceptable. You know, yours isn't better than theirs because you have an awareness of something that they don't. JDC. Hey Steve, love the AI Jesus video. The idea of an AI avatar of departed loved ones makes me sad, though I'll admit it was sweet when they did it on Discovery. Not sure what the difference is there, but that's depressing enough. Have you read or heard about the Gospel of Judas? The chaos of the discovery is as wild as the contents. I seem to remember you doing a lot of reading about religion back in the day. I am aware of the existence of the Gospel of Judas, but I have not read it, and I have forgotten anything I once may have known about the circumstances of its discovery. So at the moment, I will have to take your word for that. But if I remember, I will look it up and see if I can uh, remember what you know, as what you call the chaos of the discovery is all about. But yeah, I'm other than just recognizing that yes, the Gospel of Judas is a thing that exists, is one of the heretical gospels like the Gospel of Thomas, etc. Other than that, I can't. Either I never knew or I knew and I've forgotten. So sorry. Rusty Ronan, yo, Steve. It's really amazing how similar our tastes are. I too checked out Ken Burns' American Revolution. I liked it very much, as I do all his works. But I gotta say, it put me in a bit of a depressed mood because it made clear this nation was never really about freedom. The truth is, it was always about profit. That's all I'm going to say about that. On a lighter note, Beatles Anthology 2025 was released recently, and that's all I'm going to say about that, too. Are you a Beatles fan? Yes, I would say I'm a Beatles fan. They've never been one of my very, very favorites. Like, I've never been a Beatles fan as like something that I identify as. I've never felt as close to their music as I feel close to like my very, very, very favorites. Um, but of course, I think the Beatles were great. I think that it's just fantastic music. To the point that I do, when people make a point of saying they don't like the Beatles, I kind of roll my eyes a little. Not that you have to like them, not that it's required, because it's all subjective. And if you don't like the Beatles, you don't like the Beatles. That's fine. But there is a little bit of, you know, oh, so you don't like the Beatles. Well, aren't you exceptional? Hmm, aren't you special? You don't like the Beatles, you know? You could listen to the White Album and just feel nothing. Well, good for you, I guess. Um, yeah, but no, yes, I would say I am a Beatles fan, yes. MW Ridra, hey Steve, do you mind if I ask how much you tip for counter service, if anything? I always tip for a server or delivery, but growing up, it didn't really seem like there was an expectation to tip for counter service, but now it seems like there is. Like, am I an asshole for not tipping when I go to pick up a burger and some fries? I know you discussed tipping in a previous Ask Away, but I don't think counter service came up. No, I'm the same as you. There was never an expectation to tip for counter service. That does seem to be changing. The way I handle it is if I am prompted to tip, I will. I don't do it as a habit. And I mean, yeah, like you say, like a burger and fries. If I get something at McDonald's or Burger King and I like go in to get it, I don't tip for that. Um, Sometimes if there's like a tip jar there, and I'm paying cash, I'll throw something in the jar. Or if it's one of those deals where you pay with a card and they prompt you to tip because you're paying with the card, like I'll do that. You know, if I'm prompted to tip, I don't mind doing that. But no, it's not a regular thing for me. Like I'm like you. If I'm in a restaurant, yeah, obviously you always tip at a restaurant. You know, that would be unconscionable not to leave a tip for the wait staff at a restaurant. And same thing for delivery. Like I get food delivered a lot. I use Grubhub and DoorDash a lot, especially on the weekends. And I always tip the delivery guy. Or girl, the delivery person. I always tip as very generously. Um, but yeah, for counter service, again, not as a habit, but if I'm prompted to, I will. Yeah, and it's different. It is because it was never like that before. Um, and I suspect that it's just another way of, employers trying to weasel their way out of, paying a better wage to their employees, but, whatever. But yes, I feel like we're very much of the same mind as far as that goes. Kara the Tolkien Nerd. Hi, Steve. Just a quick question. It seems as though Netflix has acquired Warner Brothers, as well as HBO and HBO Max. Apart from Netflix increasing their subscription, what do you think this will mean for the future of WB Studios? Or are we destined for more wokeness, girl bosses, and bad writing? Thoughts, please, Kara. I welcome as much wokeness as anybody wants to bring. I don't think we're going to see that. I don't really feel like Netflix is going to be like, we're making everything woke now. Although hopefully they'll be a little better than current management of WB. Like I can't. There are few people I would. I like. I don't know if I can think of a worse person to be in charge of a movie studio or any kind of creative company than David Zaslav, who is the current CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. So if Netflix buys him out and he and Zaslav is told to hit the bricks, I think that would be an improvement just, you know, by default. I mean, look, I am not anti-woke. I think what people refer to as wokeness and what people complain about as woke stuff is good and positive and should be encouraged, and we need more of it. So if Netflix buying Warner Brothers makes their environment, their workplaces, and the shows and movies that they make more quote unquote woke, I think that's a good thing. So I'm all for that. I'm not expecting that. um, but if it happens, I think that would be great. Um, but no, I mean, as far as I know, and again, plans change, and literally the deal was just announced today, and they still need to negotiate a lot of it. But the general idea of Netflix buying Warner Brothers and HBO, etc., is in place. And as far as I've read, I read the announcement today. The plan at the moment is really not to change much of anything. That they intend to keep Warner Brothers as a separate entity. Like they're not going to fold HBO Max into Netflix. It's going to remain a separate thing. They're going to keep the Warner Brothers related assets as their own separate thing and just continue to run them under a Netflix corporate umbrella. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But at the moment, at this incredibly early stage, it looks like the intention is really to not change things up all that much. Dana the hopelessly hopeful. Hi, Steve. Happy Friday. We're near the end of the term. State exams next week, finals the week after. In my last class of the day today, nearly 2/3 of the students were out. It's so incredibly frustrating and discouraging. There's not much I can do about it, and I already do everything I can think of to try and get students to just show up. Obviously, I don't want to not care, but given my limited options, I wish I was able to just accept it and move on. Any ideas or suggestions on how to do that? None that will be of any use to you. Because look, if it was as easy as flipping a switch or turning a dial, you would have done that. You are who you are. You are the person that you are. You care about the things that you care about. And that's a good thing. The bad side of that is that it makes things more difficult for you emotionally and personally when things don't live up to your expectations, when you run into problems that you would like to fix, but you can't, because you can't just not care. You say you don't want to not care, but I mean, you can't just not care. The best advice I can offer is, and it's not flipping a switch or turning a dial. Maybe it's a meditation, it's a visualization, it's some kind of therapeutic thing, but it's to remember the serenity prayer. And I am an atheist, so if I say the serenity prayer as written, I understand that God is a symbolic thing, a metaphorical thing. I suppose if you are also an atheist and you want to be a stickler about it, you could rephrase it, and instead of saying God grant me the serenity, you could say, don't address anything or anyone specifically and just say, let me have the serenity, or may I have, or may I find the serenity. But it's as written, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And just saying that doesn't change anything. But maybe if you say it enough or you think about it enough, eventually you will internalize it and it will help. I don't know, probably not, but I will tell you this. Granny had a refrigerator magnet that had the serenity prayer on it. And now Granny's house is my house, and Granny's refrigerator is my refrigerator, and that magnet is still right where she left it. And I have no intentions of ever moving it. So even though I don't believe in God, literally, or really figuratively, I mean, other than like is just a sort of poetic concept, like I'm an atheist. But I find great value and great wisdom in that prayer, in that poem. So that's the best I can say. It probably will not help. There is no easy solution to your problem. You care too much. And I'm afraid you're just kind of stuck with that. Isaiah Taylor, YouTube link, and then, hey, Steve, sorry for the late question, but this is a link to a YouTube video about famous attempts by humans to contact extraterrestrials. I know it's more than 2 hours long, and I don't really take you as a SETI fan, but would you say that humans attempting to contact aliens, no matter how unlikely the odds, is a form of radical optimism? If given the chance, would you shout into a radio dish across the stars? Why or why not? I mean, I'm not a SETI fan. I wouldn't say that SETI is something that takes up a lot of bandwidth in my brain, but I certainly don't disapprove of it. But yes, it is radical optimism. Given the distances involved, given the time scales involved, it is incredibly unlikely, even if there are alien intelligent life forms out there that could theoretically hear us, it is incredibly unlikely that any of them will hear us and then that any of them will respond in a way that we will hear back. So yes, it's radical optimism. But it's an act of hope. it has incredible symbolic power. It's our species saying we are reaching out into the universe in the hope that we are not alone, and in friendship and curiosity. And if there is anybody out there who can hear this, here we are, and here's who we are. I mean, that's what's beautiful about Pioneer 10 and the Voyager records, and those things. Like, I think that stuff is beautiful, man. Is it practical? Probably not. But in terms of its deeper meaning, I think it's beautiful. Absolutely, if given the chance, would I shout into a radio dish? Of course I would. Of course I would. In the tiny little hope that maybe someday somebody will hear it. I mean, would I ever expect anything to come of it? No. The odds are ludicrously small. Even if aliens are actually out there, which I hope they are. But it's the act itself that has meaning. It's the leap of faith that has meaning. So yeah, absolutely I would. Absolutely I would. Some random geek busy with year-end inventory. Since I will actually be busy with year-end inventory, and I am typing this on my phone so quickly, someone asked you what political theory you have read and what you know about socialism. My question to you is, do you actually want to know about socialism? Are you actually curious about political theory outside of liberal democracy and capitalism? Because you seem uninterested in that. Because if you were curious, you would have done your own reading. I could help you understand actual socialism. No, you're right. I mean, to be brutally honest, I'm probably not going, at this point in my life, I'm probably not going to become significantly better read on political theory than I currently am. So you have me pegged on that. And here's the second one from Geek, who, of course, like a few others, is also a patron and a member. Some random geek who is still an anarchist, despite Steve Shives saying it is a bullshit ideology. Somebody's not having fun doing year-end inventory. Since I can't be in the live chat, someone else has to spam the links and tell people to give money to Phoenix, Joanna, Joey, Linaquin, and Naz the Nico, and charitylinks.page. And another friend is going to set up a GoFundMe for themselves. Poverty kills. Poverty because of capitalism. Capitalism is terrible in theory, not just in practice. And we all do communism. What do you think sharing is caring comes from? Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, community, community involvement, people helping each other out. Yeah, there's the vilification or the demonization of communism in any form, just in general, just as an idea, is more than a little silly and over the top. And yes, I'll mention it again at the end of the show, but since it's brought up here, charitylinks.page, which has information about all of our friends that are mentioned in this question and more beyond that as well. And if you can possibly help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand, charitylinks.page. Please take advantage of that and please help if you possibly can. The attentive alternative reality audience. So, I remember a while back, you mentioned that in 2026 you'd be covering alternate reality episodes and retro reviews. Do you know offhand when that will be in 2026? Unsure if you have the timeline of releases fully planned. P.S. What do you think of Netflix purchasing HBO and WB? Do you think that will be a negative for the new DCU? As long as the DCU projects continue to be successful and make money, I don't think it means anything to them. I don't think Netflix will be meddling in things like that. Again, like I said in answer to Kara's question, we literally just found out about this, so I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen, and I have no special insight. I'm just a fan like anybody else. I have no special insight into the business side of it, but my expectation is that when it gets down to the level of like specific projects, especially successful ones like the DCU has been so far, it's probably not going to change much of anything. But as for the retro reviews, I do not know offhand, but I looked it up because I saw your question earlier. And the other universes batch is what I'm calling it, and that is episodes. It's not mirror universe. It's alternate universe or alternate reality episodes of Star Trek other than episodes dealing with the mirror universe. The mirror universe is going to have its own batch, not in 2026, sometime after that. I haven't scheduled that far out, but I do have 2026 completely scheduled. And the other universe's batch will be from late August to late September. So the first one will go up on it'll be a 5 episode batch, and the first one will go up on August 27th, 2026, and the last one will go up on September 24th, 2026. So there you go. That's when the alternate universe reviews will go up. Thank you for asking. Okay, Russell. Hey, Steve, something funny / ironic happened this last week. NYPD Blue was canceled from Hulu, but now has moved to Disney Plus with the Hulu bundle. So I clicked on the show with that app, and to my surprise, it was NYPD Blue unedited, meaning all the nitty gritty content still intact. It got me to think about when the show first aired, how much controversy and backlash that show got. My question is, do you remember that, or did you watch the show after it aired? Well, I mean, they put unedited stuff on Disney Plus a lot now. I mean, I think when Disney Plus first started, they didn't have, it was mostly family friendly stuff. But I mean, God, Deadpool and Wolverine is on there. There's lots of rated R stuff and lots of more mature content on Disney Plus now. I do think you have to click a box or indicate that like you are comfortable with seeing like 18 plus content. But other than that, they really aren't being super censorious of stuff that I've seen. Oh, I remember it. I think I was only 13 when NYPD Blue started, but yeah, I remember it when it started. Yeah, I remember the controversy. I remember TV stations refusing to show the first episode because it was so raunchy, supposedly. And you look back on it now and it feels quaint. You watch like NYPD Blue now and it's like, oh, it's, a split second of Dennis Franz's butt. Oh my God. Oh, it's a lady in her bra. And, she's about to have sex with that gentleman. Oh my God. And it was on at like 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like it very much, it really reminds you how prudish our culture is. But no, I remember it at the time. Yeah. Yeah. I was not watching the show regularly when it first started. I did not become a regular viewer of NYPD Blue until season 2 when Jimmy Smits joined the show. But I was very aware, as just a person who paid attention to television, of the NYPD Blue controversy from the start. Yeah, for sure. Captain, fuck Schumer. There's the devil you know and the devil you thought you knew. Till a few weeks ago, he was a spineless, wet noodle career politician who clawed his way out of the swamp atop the group that is our only option versus fascism. He wasn't perfect, but he demonstrated skills in existing and consuming air. He never actively undermined the good guys until now. He's betrayed his country, he's betrayed his party and America, which stings worse than the routine assault from MAGA. He is Robert the Bruce. Thoughts? I can't really disagree. I mean, he is one of many Democrats in senior leadership positions in Congress and just in the party in general, whose time has come and gone. He takes a lot of the blame for caving to the Republicans on the government shutdown. He wasn't willing to publicly endorse Mamdani in the New York mayor's race. He wasn't willing to even say that he voted for him, which a lot of people assume means he didn't vote for him. And as a leader in the Democratic Party, as a very prominent senior Democratic politician, as one of the most visible elected Democrats in the country, that kind of shit is just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. What the fuck was the issue with not supporting Mamdani? And it wasn't just Schumer. Hakeem Jeffries dragged his feet for the longest time before he finally endorsed Mamdani too. And it's like, what is the fucking problem? He's a guy in your party. He's the party's official nominee, chosen by the voters, the Democratic voters of New York City, overwhelmingly to be the nominee of your party for the mayoral race. He's popular. He stands for things that your party supposedly stands for. What's the fucking problem? You know, and so the Mamdani, and I know I think you're mostly referring to the, caving in the on healthcare during the government shutdown, and I agree that was, bullshit, and certainly a much bigger deal in the lives of everyday Americans than who he voted for the mayor of one city. But I think symbolically, just his reluctance to support a can't miss slam dunk candidate like Zoran Mamdani, um, is symbolically just shows you like, okay, it's time for these guys to go. It's time for these guys to retire because they don't get it. They're holding the entire party back. They're creating even more of an obstacle between potential voters and this party. And that obstacle needs to fucking get out of the way. Nancy Pelosi is doing the smart thing and is retiring. I think it's past time for Schumer to do the same thing. He should have done that years ago. He should have made way for somebody else because at this point he's an impediment. He's not a leader, he's an impediment. And here's Russell's member question. I decided to rewatch the series being NYPD Blue. I decided to rewatch the series. I typically break these up in chapters, Kelly era, Simone era, etc. Is there any moments that stand out for you in the Kelly era? It doesn't have to be about Kelly per se, just that era. For me, I love the early dynamic between Fancy and Sipowicz, like the one where Andy blackmails a bad captain to back off the lieutenant, or their first argument in the locker room. You guys make me laugh episode. I also love that Andy can do an interview without blowing his cool thing. I like the Andy's sort of first alcoholic recovery storyline. He kind of starts the show at rock bottom and then he kind of gets sober and starts to improve a little bit, at least in terms of that. I like Andy's the early stages of Andy's romance with Sylvia. I mean, they eventually fall in love and get married. And his first memorable interaction with her on the show is to get mad at her and grab his crotch and go, "Ipsitus, you pissy little bitch." And eventually they become like a great couple. So, hey, yeah, I remember a lot of the early Andy and Sylvia stuff. And finally, from Russell Kopp, does the U.S. need its own version of BUSAB to slow down a government that changes the rules too rapidly? I had to look up what BUSAB was, Bureau of Sabotage. You should know I have never read any Frank Herbert and probably never will. So based on the general idea of BUSAB that I think is what it is, maybe. But again, I'm not the best person to ask because I've never actually read the story that introduces the Bureau of Sabotage. But based on what I think it is and its basic job to keep an overreaching, corrupt, bad government from doing even worse things by working against it, maybe like, especially while the current regime is in charge, it might not be the worst idea. All right, that's it for the patron and member questions. I'm going to go ahead and do my ceremonial resetting of the live chat viewer so that when this is when we have watched the new Stuffy short, which is coming up in a minute, once that's over, I can just go right back to the live chat and talk with everybody about whatever has been on their mind. Okay, here we go. Come on, come on, come on. There it is. Hi, everybody. Okay, so it's time for a Stuffy short. That is our typical schedule here. This is a brand new Stuffy and Friends short that will go live as a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow at noon Eastern. But because you are watching this live stream right now, you get to see it before anybody else. So please, my friends, do enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So what do you think? Should I pitch it to someone at Warner Brothers or what?
Explain it to me again.
It's Superman: The College Years. The show would be about Clark Kent attending university, working at the school paper, and also secretly operating as a young, inexperienced Superman.
It sounds like Superboy.
He's not Superboy. He's 18 when the show starts. He's Superman.
Right, but your concept sounds identical to the Adventures of Superboy TV series from the late 80s.
It's not. This is my own idea. Come in. Hey, Hans. Have a seat.
Guten Tag. How'd your presentation go?
Presentation?
Hans had a meeting today with some potential investors for his one-dog show.
One-dog show?
Yeah, it is called Not Me. I appear on a black stage with only my muzzle illuminated, and I deliver a breathless, continuous monologue wherein I describe a series of past events, pausing occasionally to emphatically deny that the events happened to me. Sounds very avant-garde.
And very familiar, Hans. Isn't that exactly the same premise as Beckett's Not I?
I acknowledge certain similarities, however, my play is constructed of its own unique peculiarities, which diverge significantly from Beckett.
Oh?
Yeah, for example, my play is performed entirely in the nude.
Aren't you always in the nude?
What is your point? Did any of your investors have concerns over the similarity to Beckett? None of them have even heard of Samuel Beckett. They are all wealthy but culturally untutored dentists.
You'd better hope that goes for everyone in the audience, too. I'm telling you, man, it sounds so much like Not I that people are going to think you ripped it off.
How is your idea different from Superboy again?
It's Superman, the college years. So I hope we're all clear on how the concept is completely distinct from Superboy and also from Smallville. It's Superman, the college years. Okay? I don't know how it can be made any clearer. Anyway, very polite to turn to stuff when addressing him. Well, don't you look at people when you talk to them? It'll be incredibly rude. Jay Miller says, is Stuffy his nickname? Like, does his ID say Stufford? No, Stuffy is his legal government name. And Daryl Lett says, if I recall correctly, Steve has a video on his 5 Stupid Things series about the Venture Brothers. No, I do not. I never did a video about the Venture Brothers. You're thinking of somebody else. And Caitlin, yeah, that is starting on a mention of Warner Brothers, even though this was before the net. Yeah. That was a coincidence. I recorded this one earlier this week, but it was written many weeks ago. So yeah, complete coincidence that it goes up on with a mention of Warner Brothers on the day that the Netflix deal is announced, for sure. Oh, some super chats are coming in. Yeah. Kane20C, how is it distinct from Saved by the Bell, the college years? Actually, in all honesty, it's a carbon copy of Saved by the Bell, the college years. Kitsugi Sai says, with a super chat, thank you very much, says maybe Netflix will pick it up now. Hey, fingers crossed. Blade Winters, Stufford, Stuffy, Stuffington. That's not it, but that's a good guess. Thank you, Kara. Yes, it's Superman, the college years. Okay, Connor Carlisle with a super chat. Thank you very much. 2 other fictional, obviously evil factions that I'm also concerned to see people claim are right are Caesar's Legion and the Enclave from the Fallout series. Instant red flag. I will take your word for that. I'm not familiar with either one of those. Stephen G. Clenard with a super chat. In my headcanon, the transporter was invented by Jessica Fletcher. Well, now it's my headcanon too. That makes perfect sense. Because we all know that more than anything, she loves to murder people. And if anybody was going to invent a murder machine, it would be primetime television's most prolific murderer, who always got away with it and managed to convincingly frame other people for it, and that would be Jessica Fletcher. She framed even more people for even more murders that she committed than Hercule Poirot. And even though Poirot may have been active over a longer period of years, Murder, She Wrote had 11 or 12 old-fashioned US TV seasons of like 25 episodes apiece. So she has a way higher body count. Philip Kehoe, I'm jealous. Philip says, I saw Wake Up Dead Man last night. It may shock you that Ryan Johnson put political commentary in his mystery story. Oh my God, I can't believe it. No, I haven't seen it. I'm waiting for it to come out on Netflix, but I'm very eager to watch it. And Daryl Lett says, okay, Steve, deliver me from nowhere. Someone said David Lynch died. So did Steve Croppett, one of the 60s Memphis soul people. Okay, I mean, I don't know what you expect me to do about it. Yes, Dave. Yes, unfortunately, David Lynch died a little while ago. Dana says, "Don't you look at people and you talk to them? Not if I can avoid it. That's just rude." Oh, and Connor with another super chat. Thank you very much. Says, do you also think the fact that we never got a Columbo Murder She Wrote crossover is a serious missed opportunity? Yeah, that would have been fun. Although we did get a Murder She Wrote Magnum PI crossover, and I'll take that. The Darth Eddie says, hey, Steve, as a fellow super fan of Perfect Strangers, I wanted to remind you that the show's 40th anniversary is coming up in March 2026. Oh, I feel so old. I'd love to see a new video on the series and characters. I'll try to come up with something because I do love me some Perfect Strangers. 40 years. I guess that's, 1986. Wow. Yeah, I'll try to come up with something. Stuart Washington with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, just wanted to give you some support and reiterate that I am reading The Ghost of Uncle Job tomorrow at a friend's ghost story party. They won't believe in ghosts and I will credit you. Oh, I think you sent me an email about it. Yeah, I don't actually have like a ready transcript of it because it was off the cuff. But if you have been able to transcribe it or just memorize whatever I said and you want to, please tell it with my blessing. I'm glad that you enjoyed it that much. Oh, Caitlin, let me go back and see your comments. Your little block of comments. About genuinely woke stuff versus tokenism. No, I agree with you. I mean, like I said in answer to the question, and the kinds of things that people consider woke when they are complaining about wokeness, I have no problem with whatsoever. Multiculturalism, diversity, welcoming and encouraging and platforming different voices other than cishet white people, valuing and seeking out different experiences and different viewpoints, being politically progressive, being, championing equality, things like that. Like I know I have absolutely no problem with any of that. And I kind of, look askance at anybody who does complain about that. But if we're talking about like tokenism and, condescending sort of pats on the head to marginalized groups or, just the sort of superficial performative stuff. Yeah, there's a difference between, genuine efforts to champion diversity and tokenism. And that it's very good to point that out. And you also, yes, I did the same thing when you said, Warner Brothers, a Netflix company. I also had a flashback to AOL Time Warner. And I had the same thought. Like, I'm not a big fan of corporate mergers, period. I hope this one works out okay. But I did have that thought of, wait a minute, should Netflix be able to buy Warner Brothers? And I had the same thought, 30, 40 years ago when AOL bought Warner Brothers. And I was like, is that the way that should go? But yeah. Okay. 255 AD says, what's so good about bipartisanism? That was my thought after you answered my question. If a party loses, who cares what they think? Well, in general, I'm sympathetic to that viewpoint, but there is such a thing as the tyranny of the majority. And I do think, the solution to me, the solution to the tyranny of the majority is the rule of law and a strong constitution, not necessarily bipartisanship, but bipartisanship in a healthier system than the one we have in the United States currently could also be, a guardrail against the tyranny of the majority. Oh, and Sinister Intelligence. This is Isaiah says, humanity is making me pull a Jodie Foster from Contact and listen to actual intelligent life. Maybe they don't fight over sky creatures or skin tones like we do. Well, hopefully. Um, Kitsugi Sai says, in what season did you join the cast of Stuffy and Friends? Did Stuffy invite you? I'm an OG Stuffy and Friends cast member, baby. Let me catch up on some super chats that have come in here. Here is a member message from Brian Baker. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, in addition to a will, a living will might be a good idea, especially if not healthy. I'm 60 and will be rebuilt by 65. My living will say, save me. Hook me up to machines. Keep me alive. I want a living death. Here's a super chat from Don Weasel Yeehaw Edition. Hey, Steve, read any current Supes Batman comics. Kryptonite Spectrum and Superman Unlimited are incredible, and the current Batman run is A+. I have not kept up on the new stuff, but I have heard some good things about all of those, and I am going to check them out at some point. So thank you for that reminder. Here's a super chat from Shadow Pants. Thank you very much. Says, preach all your work, Steve. Consistently well written and thoughtfully delivered material. Thank you very much. That's a very nice thing to say. I appreciate that. Isaiah also says, I received Star Trek Voyager seasons 1 through 3 for my birthday yesterday. Were they mad at you? Who did you piss off to earn that gift? No, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, yes, Kara. Yes, I thank you for. Kara says the first story in Legends of the Dark Knight was Shaman. Yes, you're right. I looked it up because I think I'm going to do a sort of a 3-part little mini series in my Best Batman Ever series. Maybe not starting with the next one, but starting with the one after that, because I want to do Shaman and Gothic and Prey, because I like all 3 of those. I really like Gothic and Prey. But for the gimmick, I'll do the first 3 story arcs from Legends of the Dark Knight, because boy, one of my favorite Batman comics ever. Dana says, have I ever bragged about being polite? I don't believe so. Let's see. 255 AD says, you ever think it might be a good idea to tell conservatives if they really want to conserve the status quo, you can't dismantle stuff like the welfare state or state infrastructure? I mean, you can tell them. I don't think it's going to make any difference. They don't listen to fucking shit that you say to them. But you can make an effort. Brelly Ghost says, does anyone remember the Edward Gorey animated sequences for the PBS show Mystery? Those intros were lovely. Yes, I remember those. Absolutely. And you're right. I really like those. Darth Eddie says, we also got a Murder, She Wrote, Simon and Simon crossover, which means all 3 of those shows coexist in the same universe. Yeah, and like I've said before, I generally go by the rule that all shows exist in the same universe. So, but yes, it is cool whenever there's like a little crossover. Here's another super chat from Don Weasel Yeehaw Edition. Says, also, thank you for standing up for what's right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for saying that. 255 AD says, oh, wait, hang on. Blade Winter says, have you seen Gotham? Just saw an implicitly pretentious video on it and reminded me that it was just, what if DC had a soap opera? Yeah, I gave up on Gotham in its last season. After season 3, I was like, okay, I don't need to be around here anymore. But when Gotham leaned into the goofiness and was trying to be not just a soap opera, but a soap opera that was fucking nuts, which it did occasionally in its most entertaining moments. When it was that version of itself, I really liked it. I thought it was really funny and really entertaining. But other than that, I just found it kind of boring and redundant, and I was like, what are we doing here? But yes, I've seen most of Gotham, but I dipped out before the last season. Um, 255 AD says, I think when the founder said tyranny of the majority, what they actually meant was poor people having too much political power. Do you disagree? That may indeed be what the founders meant, but I mean, I don't really give a shit what the founders meant. The founders have been dead for 200 years. Whether they meant it to mean uh, keeping the poor from having too much political power or not is irrelevant to me. There, you still want to guard against the potential problem of any particular group gaining so much power in a purported democracy that they're unstoppable, that they can do whatever they want. Because then you're just your only protection is their good intentions, you know, um, and that's not always sufficient. Tasby 12, more best Batman ever. Awesome. Yes, oh, of course. Yes, there will be much more best Batman ever and best Superman ever as well. Brelly Ghost says the Borat character is a racist version of Balky because Borat is using a real country and making up lies about a real culture. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I never interpreted Borat as making up lies about a real culture because I see that character as obviously being satirical. You know, you're not supposed when Borat is saying things about Kazakhstan, I don't think the intention is for you to believe that he is accurately representing it. You know, just like when he says all these incredibly anti-Semitic things about Jewish people, you're not like that. That's part of the joke. He's an idiot. You know, he's a satire of, you know, anti-Semitism and of things like that. But I mean, I see where you're coming from, and you're right. Yes, he is supposedly from a real country, whereas Balky was from a fictional country. Um, but I mean, your mileage may vary, and you're entitled to your opinion. I don't think Borat as a character is racist. Well, I mean, he's racist in universe, but I don't think he's racist as like a creation. You know. Um, Member message from Donkey Hody. I was a South Park viewer back in the first couple seasons, but not much after. I've been watching recently, though. Have you seen the Trump bashing? Yes, I have been watching the new episodes. It's the first regular South Park I have watched for probably 10 years. I stuck it out a lot longer than you did, but eventually I was like, okay, I'm done. You know, I just couldn't justify watching it anymore, even though there were always parts of it that I still found funny, but just the bullshit libertarian politics of it got me. And I was like, all right, there's other shit to watch. But I have been watching the recent episodes, the Trump bashing, and I have enjoyed it a lot. Oh, hi, Geek. Geek says the American Revolution was a counter revolution to keep slaves and genocide indigenous people. I think that's part of it. I think it's more complicated than that, but that's definitely part of it. And the Ken Burns documentary goes into that. One of the really good things that the Ken Burns documentary does is it makes it clear that there really were no good guys, especially from the point of view of enslaved people and indigenous people. Like it was basically okay, both between the colonists and the British. Well, okay, both of these sides are going to be bad for us, but which one's going to be better is kind of the situation they were in. And like I said, the documentary makes that very clear. Oh, John Stewart says, did you see the brouhaha over Absolute Batman crushing the Klan? People telling off on themselves by advocating for the bad guys. Thanks again for the great content. Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Telling on themselves. Like, did you think Batman would be on the side of the white supremacists? Is that what you thought Batman would do? Like, yeah. Like, no, Batman would not be on the side of the fucking Klan. Um, Oh, Blade Winter says, is a satire that failed at its job still worth keeping as a satire? I mean, Probably not, but whether or not the satire failed is going to be a matter of opinion. So you have to take that into account. Um, Wolferman Hart says, "Where is the Ken Burns documentary? I've not had regular PBS for a while. If that's where it is located, yes, it is on. That's where I watched it on the PBS app. I don't know how much of it is available to watch for free. I think when I watched it the first week it was out, and I think it was all the episodes were available to watch for free. But I am also a member of my local PBS station and a PBS Passport member, so I get to watch a lot, which is basically like the paywall version of PBS. So I get to watch a lot of stuff that you know people who aren't supporters don't get to watch. So I don't know what the current availability of the American Revolution series is, but yes, it is on. It's on PBS, and it's also on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff. Like if you just want to buy it or whatever, or maybe your local library has it. But yeah, Stephen G. Glenart, nuances for suckers. Apparently. Oh, Brian Baker with a super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Geek, we have the same favorite founding father. Thomas Paine is my favorite too. I wouldn't go so far as to say the rest can go fuck themselves. I mean, I'm not saying that they were good guys because they weren't, but it's I mean they're it's complicated, and I feel like we can take an appropriate view of their role in history, um, and not let them off the hook for all the fucking bullshit that they were responsible for, um, without just completely chucking them out the window. Oh, Caitlin, that sucks. All the PBS stuff outside of YouTube is geo locked. That's really too bad. Yeah, no, yeah, Nova, one of my favorite shows. I haven't watched Nova for a while. I should go back and catch up on some of the recent Nova episodes. Um, Kirok says Die Hard came out in July. I don't believe in Christmas in July. You know what else came out in July? Miracle on 34th Street. Just saying. Steven, I don't think I've ever had a public a PBS or a public radio tote bag. I don't think I've ever gotten one. Brelly Ghost asks, "What's your favorite season of The Simpsons?" Wow. I used to have a really strong opinion on this because I got the first maybe 9 or 10 seasons on DVD, so I remembered like specific seasons and specific episodes. I can't really say anymore. I remember thinking seasons 7 and 8 and maybe 9 were all really strong. But I mean, honestly, that first decade of the show, it's really hard to go wrong. I mean, the show was so good for those, what now we would call the early years. For most shows, fucking 10 years is like a Hall of Fame run. With The Simpsons, it just goes on and on forever. But the first decade of the show, it was just, all-time classic. So it's kind of hard to go wrong. Caitlin says 7. That's a good, I mean, as far as I can remember, that's a good choice. Ace of Card Cat, was America founded on tax evasion? Sort of. Yeah, sort of. Kintsugi Sai with a super chat. Thank you very much. The founding fathers were clear. Alcohol should be legal, then illegal, then legal again. But not when you are riding a vehicle unless it's a plane. Exactly. They couldn't have been more clear. Blade Winter says, "Do you have to do Thanksgiving or Christmas feuding, or is your family chill?" I am so blessed to have just a small group of family members that I get together with for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We've got it down to me, my brother, my dad, and my dad's girlfriend. Whenever we have holiday dinners, that's usually the group, and it's fucking perfect. Everybody gets along. There's no fighting. There's no bullshit. We all like each other. It's great. Um, John Stewart says, any plans to do more Starfleet employee videos? Pretty sure the guy that took over for Boothby has quite a chip on his shoulder. I'm shooting the new one tomorrow, and it will be out next week. It'll be out on Wednesday. Yes, a new Starfleet jobs video is coming out very, very soon. So thank you for asking. I get to plug it a little bit. Yeah, I'm shooting it. I wrote it a couple weeks ago. I was waiting for one final little costume piece to get here, and it got here a few days ago. So I am shooting it tomorrow, and it'll be up next week. Air One Fire, no mom, no mom. My parents are divorced, and I do not see my mother on holidays. um, Air One Fire says, what do you understand by the word elitism? What an interesting question. I would say elitism is a a person or a group of people looking down at other people for illegitimate reasons, believing themselves to be superior and better capable of leadership or deserving of greater influence or greater power because they're of a higher class, they're better educated, they're smarter, they have better taste, they have more money. They're somehow at a higher level than people that are beneath them. That's the general idea that I take from it. What do you take from it? I feel like that's the standard definition of it. Um, See you, geek. Thanks for stopping by. Um, Wolferman Hart says, here's a nugget to consider. George Washington's second farewell address, voluntarily stepping down and danger of factions, used to be up there with the Declaration on Basic Civics courses. Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of part of what I'm getting at when I said to Geek about, I'm not entirely, even though I'm perfectly comfortable talking about all the ways in which George Washington and other founding fathers were shitty. Um, I don't think it's a very smart thing to do to just completely say, well, fuck them, even though I think the degree to which we allow their opinions and their thoughts on things to influence our modern politics, I think should be extremely, extremely limited. But I mean, yeah, well, you just pointed out, like George Washington setting that standard of stepping down voluntarily after 2 terms as president, and then that becoming a de facto term limit until Franklin Roosevelt, you know, that had a huge influence, I would argue a very positive influence on American political culture and on setting the expectations for what the presidency was. It was not going to be a king or an emperor. It was going to have limited authority and finite authority. And Washington's example, you know, established that. And I mean, yeah, he also was a slave owner and he didn't even free his fucking slaves when he died, which is something that other plantation owners of the time who were still fucking filthy slave owners still would at least do. He didn't even do that. So fuck him. Like, I'm not going to sing his praises in a completely unqualified way, but yeah, there are good things about our country and about our political system that we do have to chalk up to him and other people of his generation, despite how deeply, deeply shitty they were in a lot of ways. Okay, Stephen G. Clenard asking the tough questions. Triscuits or Wheat Thins, Cholula or Tapatio, Red Vines or Twizzlers? Triscuits, Cholula, and neither. I'm not a fan of Red Vines or Twizzlers. Air One Fire, elitism in reference to pop culture. Yeah, just thinking that your taste is better than other people's. You know, thinking that, because you like that you're the things you are a fan of, or the things you enjoy are highbrow and other people's tastes are lowbrow, and just kind of being snobby about that. That's yeah, that's what I would think of as being elitist. 255 AD says, does it speak badly of me that when I first had the concept of elitism explained to me, I thought, how do I become an elite so my opinion will matter more than other people's? I don't think it speaks badly of you. I mean, I think it's a kind of a ruthlessly practical thing to consider. Brian Baker says, remember, kindness costs nothing this holiday season and throughout the year. Yes, indeed. Good advice to always remember, but especially during the holidays. Hi, Debbie. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Um, oh, hey, Jason. There he is. And see, Steve is not elitist. He is the everyman. That's right. That's right, my friend. And hey, so are you. We're the everymen in a completely platonic way. Um, did I miss your question, Isaiah? I think I saw it, but I neglected it. Let me go back and find it. Oh, the Die Hard one. I watched Die Hard on VHS last night as part of my countdown to Christmas. I forgot how silly and goofy that movie was. Glad you liked my train set around my dream. No, I love Die Hard. Die Hard's a great movie. Die Hard's a great movie. I don't give a shit if it's a Christmas movie or not. I mean, I'm happy to consider it one, but I really don't care. Super chat from Kirok, who said, oh, hi, Matthew. Matthew's here too. Kirok says, or not a super chat, a member message, but anyway, Kirok says, do you own any Star Trek uniforms from the films 2 through 6 or any of the pilot episodes? So many potential job opportunities. TOS even dabbled with the odd job like Squire of Gothos' character Jaeger. The uniforms I have are all things I specifically have purchased for the Starfleet jobs videos. I have a like for the Starfleet chaplain one, that is like a black version of a monster maroon, because I saw that was for sale somewhere, and I thought, oh, that would be perfect for like a priest. It's like a Starfleet, like a a monster maroon style uniform, but it's not red, it's black. That's perfect. So I have that. The one that I just got for the upcoming one is from a movie era. I don't think I intended for. I mean, the actual time period of most of the Starfleet jobs videos doesn't really matter. But I don't think in my head that the new one is set specifically during the classic era movie. I feel like it's set sometime between the classic movie era and the TNG era, but the uniform piece, the costume piece, is from a classic, a classic Star Trek movie. But no, so I don't have a bunch of costumes just kind of hanging in the closet, just waiting to be used. I have ones that I have used and that I bought because I needed them for one of the things that I wrote. Opinionville Jason says, if every man lived alone in his grandma's house, shaking his fist at the world while eating an Arby's roast beef sandwich. You know what? I should get Arby's for lunch tomorrow. Tomorrow is my cheat day, and it has been a while since I had some Arby's. So maybe I'll go to Arby's and get lunch tomorrow. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah. Yeah. 255 ED says, even if it isn't something conservatives literally believe, is that the position you would respect at least? Fund state and infrastructure just to keep everything exactly as it is? No. That would be better than what they currently advocate for. which would be making things worse. I mean, I guess it would be the lesser of two evils as far as like forms of conservatism. But no, I don't support keeping things exactly as it is because, yes, robustly funding the welfare state and infrastructure is necessary and something we should do. But we also need to be changing things and making them better. So, no, I would not respect that position. Dana says, but will you eat it in the shower? No, I will not. That's my character on the Ensign's log. I don't do that. That's my character. It's a fictional. Dana, you were on the show. Kara says, those of you who know that I served on 3 juries, I turned up for my second in my Starfleet medical science uniform. That raised a few eyebrows. I would kick you off that jury so goddamn fast. Oh my God. If I were a judge or a lawyer, if anybody showed up to jury duty wearing a fucking Star Trek costume or anything like, you get the fuck out of here. Guess what? You just got yourself out of jury duty. Good job. Good job. Get the fuck out. 255 AD says, will you be weirded out if I say some of your Starfleet jobs videos give me an ASMR buzz, particularly the chef and chaplain one? No. I mean, no. I don't, that's certainly not the intention, but it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Dana, you were on the Ensign's log. You were a regular cast member for like 3 years. You don't remember? Blade Winter says, do you think Lower Decks is a baseline ripoff of your show Ensign's Log? I don't think anybody remotely involved with Lower Decks or any other legitimate Star Trek show has ever heard of our little podcast. No. And I think the general concept of Lower Decks as a show had been floating around for so long. No, I don't think the two had anything to do with each other. And also, the main difference between Lower Decks and our podcast is funny and good. Stephen G. Clark with the super chat. Thank you, my friend. For your Star Trek retro reviews, do you have musical episodes on next year's calendar? I am clinging to life, waiting for your retro review of The Way to Eden, my favorite TOS episode. There's not going to be a musical episode batch, I don't think, but yeah, I'm going to do The Way to Eden at some point. I don't know if I have it slotted in yet or not. I'll have to check. But no, I'm not planning a musical episode batch. My fake French accent, 25580, don't you mean my spot-on Savagarian accent? Simon Moody says, what would be Steve's reaction to someone turning up for jury duty in a Wookiee costume? Same thing. Don't do that. Be serious. Don't do that. Get the fuck out. If you're not going to be serious, if you're going to show up to fucking jury duty in a fucking sci-fi, get the fuck out. You know what I just noticed? It's after 8 o'clock. We've been having so much fun that it's after 8 o'clock. And it is time now for me to start wrapping up the show. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to wrap up the show. And if anybody has any final questions, go ahead and throw them in the live chat, and I will come back after I do my standard end of show wrap up, and we'll get some final questions, and then we will call it a night. What do you say? So thank you all so much for being here. As always, I really appreciate your kind attention and your comments and questions, and especially those of you who were generous tonight with super chats. I really, really appreciate that. If you enjoy this YouTube thing that I do and you are not currently a supporter of the channel and you would like to be, You can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, or by becoming a channel member by clicking the join button. Either way, if you become a member or a patron at any level, one of the perks that you can take advantage of is submitting questions ahead of time for these twice monthly Ask Away live streams. And those are the questions that I always answer in the first part of the show. So patreon.com/Steve Shives, or become a channel member by clicking the join button. It is greatly appreciated. I could not do this without my wonderful patrons and channel members. So thank you all so much for everything you do to help me out. Also, don't forget, we talked about it a little bit just now. I'm, in addition to the YouTube stuff, I am involved. I am a cast member, let's say, with a couple of awesome podcasts that are a part of the Let Me Listen family of podcasts. One of those is the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek themed comedy podcast that I am on alongside the brilliant Jason Harding and the also brilliant Amanda Billings. And then there is also Late Seating, the movie review podcast that Jason and I do. Where we take a look at classic films and see if they deserve whatever reputation they have, good or bad. I just saw Kara's message in the chat. Do I get the impression we've irritated Steve? No, absolutely not. But anyway, the Ensign's Log and Late Seating are both part of the Let Me Listen family of podcasts. You can check those out at the link on your screen or the links in the video description. If you enjoy my YouTube stuff, I think you'll also enjoy the podcast. And especially if you enjoy funny Star Trek stuff, I think you'll enjoy the Ensign's Log. So please check that out. And also, please remember, as always, charitylinks.page, which is set up and maintained by our friend Some Random Geek, who has filled that document with links to support systems for crowdfunding and PayPals and Ko-Fis and various other things for friends of ours who need a helping hand. And if you can possibly help out some friends of ours with a few extra bucks, especially this holiday season, please consider doing that. Charitylinks.page. It is linked in the video description. And now let me go back to the live chat for some final questions. Let's see what you all have to say. Stephen Clenard says it's a goddamn shame they didn't name Charles Napier's character in DS9's Little Green Men General Herbert. That would be a most amusing little in joke, would it not? Wolferman Hart says, who is a more toxic character, Loxana Troy or Demona from Gargoyles, voiced by actress Marina Sirtis, playing Deanna Troy? Reminder, Demona tried to kill all humans a few times. I still think I'm going to give Loxana the edge there. 255 AD says, would you consider doing a 40-minute stream as the Starfleet chef where you take latex gloves off and on several times and talk about food while handling it? Not anymore. Absolutely not, under no circumstances. Sinister Intelligence says, favorite Star Trek sound effect? For me, it's the TNG phaser activation chirp and the electronic power-up of the Enterprise A in Star Trek The Undiscovered Country as she leaves space tech. Favorite Star Trek sound effect? The little chirp that the communicators make in TNG, especially when they hit it, when they slap their comm badge and it makes that little chirp. I think I like that. Do I have some more super chats, Kirak? Let me see. I do. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for pointing those out. Kintsugi Sai says, let's not actually gaslight Steve into believing there is no show, but that would be kind of funny on the show if it were pitch perfect satire. I think I missed what that was about. And Kirag with another super chat says, gonna crack my knuckles and jump for joy. Got a clean bill of health from Dr. McCoy. Did you write that? That's very amusing. Okay, let me see. Oh, actually, Double Guitars, you were my 5th most watched of the year. Thank you so much. A couple people have posted on social media as well about how they got their YouTube year in review and my channel was in their top 5. So that's really cool. I really like hearing that. So, Alf Stewart says, will you ever do a B5 commentary? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I have no plans specifically to do any Babylon 5 related videos, but I mean, it's always possible. I really like Babylon 5. If I ever think of something to say about it, I will. I mean, but I mean, there's lots of shows that I watch and that I enjoy that I don't make videos about. But if I think of something to say about Babylon 5 or involving Babylon 5 that is worth sharing in a video, I would absolutely do that. Yeah, for sure. Um, Kintsugi Sai says way earlier when Dana called Dares and you were talking about your character on the instance log versus you, the person. Oh, I got you. Okay. Okay. I got you. Makes sense now. And Dana being on the show, but not remembering it. Yeah. What if Dana is right? What if she really was not on the show? Okay. I believe I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for being here once again. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. And I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.